You know, in the treacherous landscape of the war in Yemen, two powerful allies once stood together on the same peak. Today, they're on opposite sides of the mountain, staring each other down. In this explainer, we're going to use the idea of mountain warfare to figure out how their alliance completely fell apart. So let's set the scene. Think back, it wasn't even a decade ago that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates were the twin pillars of a massive military coalition in Yemen. They went in together, totally united against a common enemy, the Houthi rebels. But fast forward to today, and that foundation, it's not just cracked, it's shattered. Those tensions that were simmering for years have finally boiled over, and now these two former partners are dangerously close to a conflict with each other. So what happened? How on earth did we go from staunch allies to bitter rivals? Well, that's the big question we're tackling today. Okay, let's get into it. So, these tensions that were bubbling under the surface, they finally exploded. It led to this incredibly dramatic confrontation, a real standoff high up on the political peaks of Yemen. Now, you have to pay attention to the language here, because this is huge. This isn't just some quiet diplomatic disagreement. When you publicly call your allies' actions highly dangerous, that's like firing a flare into the sky. It's a clear, unmistakable signal that the alliance has hit its breaking point. And what was the final straw? Well, it was this 24-hour ultimatum from Saudi Arabia. It came right after the UAE's proxy force, the Southern Transitional Council, or STC, started making moves near Saudi Arabia's own border. For Riyadh, that wasn't just a political chess move. That was a direct threat. It was a red line for their national security. Okay, to really get what's going on, we have to map the terrain. You have to understand that from the very beginning of this war, these two allies were never really climbing the same mountain. They had completely different summits in mind. And this slide right here, this breaks it all down perfectly. On one side, you've got Saudi Arabia. Their main goal was to fight the Houthis, keep Yemen as one country, and most importantly, make sure their southern border was secure. But the UAE, they were playing a totally different game. They wanted to lock down power in the south, control key ports and sea lanes, and they were even open to the idea of southern Yemen breaking away entirely. So when the STC made its move, it wasn't just some random land grab. No way. They specifically captured the strategic high ground. We're talking areas with a ton of oil and absolutely critical ports. This move just shows you exactly what the UAE was focused on, controlling Yemen's most valuable economic and maritime assets. Now, this brings us to the STC, the group at the heart of all this. And you gotta ask, who are these guys really? Are they an independent local force fighting for a legitimate cause? Or are they just local guides, hired to lead a foreign power up the mountain? So if you ask the STC, they'll tell you this is nothing new. They argue they represent a real, homegrown movement for southern independence that's been around for decades, way before the UAE ever got involved in this war. But of course, it's never that simple, is it? Analysts will tell you, yes, the Southern cause is absolutely real. It has deep roots. But the STC itself, as an organization, one analyst said it was put into existence by a midwife called the UAE. And that's the key. You can have a genuine local movement that gets armed, funded, and shaped into a proxy force that's really pushing Abu Dhabi's agenda. Okay, so this is where we have to pull the camera way, way back. Because what's happening in Yemen, it's not just about Yemen. To really understand it, you have to look at the entire mountain range of Middle Eastern politics. So one analyst, Andreas Krieg, he points to this fascinating pattern he calls the UAE's axis of secessionists. The idea is that the UAE is strategically building a whole network of these non-state groups across the region. And you know what? It looks a lot like Iran's axis of resistance. It's a way for the UAE to project its power everywhere. And once you see this pattern, you start to see it everywhere. Look at Yemen. UAE backs the separatists, Saudi Arabia backs the central government. Then jump over to Sudan. UAE backs the RSF, the Saudis are strongly against them. And it's the same playbook in Somalia. UAE supports breakaway regions, Saudi Arabia supports a unified state. It's a consistent strategy. And that quote from Krieg really hits the nail on the head. This isn't just about two countries competing for influence. No, this is a deliberate strategy by the UAE to try and build a whole new power structure in the region, one that basically pushes traditional powers like Saudi Arabia to the side. So what happens when these two giants clash on the mountaintop? Well, it's not just a few rocks that fall. We're talking about the risk of a full-blown political avalanche with consequences that are going to cascade far, far beyond Yemen. And look, this is why everyone should care, even if you're thousands of miles away. The stability of Yemen is directly tied to the security of one of the most important shipping lanes in the entire world. Any major fight here could have a huge impact on global trade. The stakes here are just incredibly high. Think about it. With the anti-Houthi coalition fractured like this, any chance of a peaceful, unified Yemen is pretty much gone. It actually empowers the Houthis. It risks a bigger war, and at the end of the day, it undermines the stability of the entire Arabian Peninsula. And so, we're left with this huge, unsettling question. The rivalry we're watching play out on the mountains of Yemen, it's really a symptom of the entire geopolitical landscape shifting under our feet. And it forces us to ask, as these old partnerships crumble, who's going to be the one to draw the new map of the Middle East?